What is up? GoodMicWork back at you, here to give you a Money in the Bank predictions video. I'm also going to review the Money in the Bank Go Home Raw, the June 13th, 2016 edition, and also there's a bunch of other wrestling news items that I want to get into as well, and I have a lot to talk about tonight, and I would like to squeeze this video in under 30 minutes long. So I'm going to jump right into things here. We're going to do a little bit different this time. I'm not going to go right into my Raw review, and then my predictions, and then after that talk about all the other stuff. We're going to talk about all the other stuff first. Just want to make mention of a couple of things. Number one, for you NBA fans out there, I was expecting to come up here and just give a quick congratulations to the Golden State Warriors on winning their second NBA championship in a row. Even during Raw, when I was writing down my notes for this commentary, I even wrote in there, make sure you congratulate the Warriors. I had no doubt that they were going to go out there and completely murder the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that didn't happen. LeBron and Kyrie Irving both went off, and Cleveland stunned Golden State at home and sends the thing back to Cleveland for a Game 6. This Golden State Warriors team was 72-9, 73-9, something like that. They're already an NBA champion. They won the year before. They have the championship experience. They're up 3-1 in a closeout game at home against a team that they are superior to. The champs got to fucking win in this situation, and I thought for sure that they would blow out Cleveland by at least 20, Draymond Green or no Draymond Green. But LeBron, say what you want about him, 6 finals in a row, but he's only won 2. You know, the motherfucker never stops fighting. I mean, if Cleveland's going to go down, and most likely they will, I mean, rest assured, Golden State is still going to win the NBA championship, most likely. I can't see how Cleveland can come back. They might be able to push it to a Game 7, but I can't see Golden State going down 3 in a row. If they do go all the way back to Golden State for a Game 7, that will be it. There's no way Cleveland can win that game. But for them to pull off that upset tonight, that was pretty awesome. And I like that they have a little bit of fight in them, and it made the NBA Finals a little bit interesting. So I guess my congratulations to the Warriors are on hold for just a bit. Also in the news this week, I never got into it when I discussed Brock Lesnar's return to the UFC, and I don't even think I mentioned it last week in my Raw review because WWE, surprisingly, didn't mention a damn thing about Brock Lesnar fighting in the UFC on Monday Night Raw. I'm surprised. And his opponent has now been named. We didn't know who it was going to be at first. We had some candidates out there, and I'm no UFC expert, so I didn't know who any of these guys were, but now we do know it will be a gentleman by the name of Mark Hunt. And from what I have seen of him, this guy's no fucking joke, and I'm a little bit concerned for Brock Lesnar, to tell you the truth. I would think Brock being younger, having the wrestling amateur experience that he has, can probably take this guy down and wrestle him and beat him, but this guy seems like a pretty legit badass Samoan puncher, and if he catches Brock with a couple of quick ones, he could knock Brock out in 30 seconds or something. So this is an extremely big risk for the WWE. So a lot is riding on the outcome of UFC 200. Brock Lesnar, barring any injuries or concussions in his UFC fight, is supposed to wrestle at SummerSlam, and there's a big question mark there who his opponent could even be. And if he winds up destroying Mark Hunt in this fight and looking like a badass, WWE might want to think about putting him in the main event. If not, and he winds up winning just a decision, or if, God forbid, he loses this match or something like that, then that's going to change everything. So I guess we won't know anything until he has his match with Mark Hunt. But this does not sound like they're just lobbing up a tomato can for Brock. I mean, this guy seems like he is a legitimate opponent and a legitimate threat and a danger to Brock Lesnar. So I, for one, am really pulling hard for Brock. I hope he can win this fight. Speaking of fighting, well, I guess the opposite of UFC would be what I referenced in my last video when I reviewed NXT TakeOver The End, and that was the ridiculous segment between Matt and Jeff Hardy that led up to their Slammiversary match this past Sunday. Now, I didn't even see the match or the pay-per-view, obviously, but I did read that Jeff Hardy won that match. Some of you told me it was a good match, so if I have a chance, I'll check it out. If anybody has a link, feel free to throw it in the comments or put it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But I still can't get over the ridiculousness of that whole thing, and I have to say, Brother Nero, at least one time a day, just to satisfy that urge, because it's fun to say. And also, by popular request, I will be checking out as soon as possible the Jake the Snake Roberts documentary. I have gotten so many requests to give opinions on it, and I have not yet seen it. I know it's on Netflix. I have Netflix. I'll try to check it out here possibly this week as soon as possible. Not sure if I'll come up and give a full review on it, unless it really touches me for some reason. I might do that. Otherwise, I'll probably just mention something in my next commentary, but I will do my best to check out that documentary this week. It's been getting rave reviews, and so many of you have asked me to comment on it. I feel like I need to take a look at it. Now on to Monday Night Raw. I will keep this review very quick because the show was only semi-good. There was only a couple of things that stood out. I really enjoyed the contract signing between John Cena and AJ Styles. That was a nice piece of business right there. I liked it. And a few other things on the show put a smile on my face and got me excited as well. I'll kind of blow through some of the results here. First of all, they did open with a nice moment of silence for the tragedy that took place in Orlando. I know that this has been talked about to death probably everywhere you look in the past couple of days, and most of you are coming here for wrestling news, and you don't want to talk about that shit. This is your escape from all of this evil and negativity that's out there in this world, so I will not really discuss it, but I will say that I'm heartbroken that it happened, and it's horrible, and this is the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history. It's unreal. I remember the night that it happened, too, because I was on Twitter, and I was extremely tired, and I was about to go to bed, and you know, with the age of social media, you know, Twitter and Facebook are finding out about these things before any news stations or mainstream news sites. So people were tweeting things like, holy shit, there's some gunshots, we hear gunshots. There were some videos of cop cars racing by from everybody that was in the area of the nightclub while all this was going on, and it was really crazy. And I said to myself, damn, you know, I'm going to bed because I'm exhausted, but I have a feeling when I wake up in the morning and read the news, it ain't going to be pretty. And I had a feeling there was going to be a lot of casualties, and there was. So let's move on now and get into Monday Night Raw. WWE tried to kick things off on a high note because they did the long moment of silence where all the wrestlers came out on the stage. And the fans, by the way, I didn't mention, were actually cool. Luckily, no one was screaming or acting like a douchebag during the moment of silence. They stayed, for the most part, pretty silent from what I could tell. So WWE tried to lighten the mood with the opening segment by having the New Day come out there. And they're cutting their funny-ass promo, of course, making fun of Kofi Kingston's shoes. I'm not sure if that's kind of a spoof on Steph Curry, maybe, because everybody's making fun of his shoes lately in the NBA. So they're out there doing their thing, and they're interrupted by Enzo and Cass, which you know that's going to be gold, having those two teams in there together. They're acting nuts, and Xavier and Enzo kind of have a little stare down. And there was a line in there that Xavier said about he's the only one that blows his woman and shit like that. So it got a little goofy. It was a little bit funny. But for the most part, it was like, you know, the other two teams are going to come out there too. And they're just going to, you know, set up the fucking four-way match that they have. And sure enough, Vaudevillains come out there and cut a promo. And Aiden English sings. He's a brilliant singer. And then Gallows and Anderson come out there as well. These four teams are going to be involved in an 8-man tag to open the show, with Enzo and Cass teaming with the New Day to take on the Vaudevillains and Gallows and Anderson pick up the victory for their team. So they're on a roll going into Sunday, but I actually do not see them winning the tag team titles at Money in the Bank, and I'll get into my predictions later. We had another stupid-ass Bob Backlund, Darren Young segment, which I paid very little attention to, and then we moved on backstage to Shane and Stephanie. Shane is back. He was out last week. Stephanie said he was on vacation. Shane kind of took exception to that. They're kind of arguing back and forth. It looks like the cooperation that was taking place between the two of them over the past few weeks is starting to deteriorate right before our eyes, and they're starting to bicker a little bit. And then out of nowhere shows up Corporate Kane. Yay, Corporate Kane is back. I was wondering where he was. Every few months, I think it's written in the WWE's handbook, bring back Corporate Kane for no reason. So they brought him back. He showed up to apply for the general manager job of SmackDown. He even brought a resume with him in his little briefcase. He had a letter of recommendation from his brother, The Undertaker. And it's just so funny to see him there because you think of all the history between him and Shane McMahon and the whole McMahon family. I mean, he tombstoned Linda. You know, he's done some fucked up things to Stephanie, I think, as well. And then, of course, we all know what him and Shane went through back in 2003. And he hooked his fucking nuts up to a car battery at ringside. So he's got some history. So, yeah, he's the first guy, I'm sure, that Shane McMahon would want to hire to run SmackDown as the guy that tried to fry your nuts. All of Shane's kids probably have twitchy little birth defects because of what Kane did to Shane's testicles. We got a Titus O'Neil and Rusev confrontation as well. Titus O'Neil comes out for his match. He's attacked by Rusev in the aisleway. The match never even takes place. Rusev just completely destroys Titus O'Neil, puts him in the Accolade on the ramp, leaves him laying, and setting up their big match at Money in the Bank for the United States title. One of the biggest segments of the night took place next, and I really liked it because, of course, you guys know I'm all a huge Shield mark, and the WWE was advertising a big Shield reunion, and that was the Ambrose Asylum, hosted by Dean Ambrose, and his two guests were, you guessed it, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. So the entire Shield will be back in the ring together again, almost 2 years to the day that they broke up. The segment was pretty good, I will say. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was just cool to see those guys in there. It started off a little bit slow. I remember, thinking to myself, all right, guys, when is something going to happen here? But they all cut decent promos. Well, Dean did, and Seth Rollins did anyway. Roman still has some work to do, but I guess it was a nice enough way to set up the big match. And Dean Ambrose, he wasn't letting the two of these guys hog the spotlight. He reminded them that if he wins that Money in the Bank, he could cash that in on them anytime. He could cash it in on the same night after their match, after he wins the briefcase, he can sit there and wait for Roman and Seth to have their match and then come out and cash it at the end. So he definitely let that threat be known, and I think he is a favorite to win the Money in the Bank. And if he did, I've mentioned it before, that could be pretty fun. You could build to a Shield three-way at SummerSlam. We still really haven't had that triple threat match with all three members of the Shield. At least I don't think we have, and we definitely haven't had it in a big match like this. So if these guys were to main event SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight title, that would be pretty awesome, and that could be a great place for Seth to win it. I think waiting until SummerSlam for Seth to get the belt back, I think is the best option. So if he winds up losing at Money in the Bank, I'm totally fine with that, provided that Seth Rollins has a belt around his waist by SummerSlam. We couldn't get completely out of the segment, though, without a little fighting going on as well. So Seth Rollins pretends to run off, and then I think he attacks Roman from behind. Roman ends up knocking out Seth, and then Dean grabs Roman and nails him with dirty deeds, so that was kind of cool. I really wasn't expecting Dean to do that. I thought they were brothers. There's no reason for them to fight yet. Dean has got to win the briefcase before he can even challenge his friend for the WWE title, so I thought maybe the dirty deeds was a little bit premature considering they're supposed to be brothers. But whatever, the fans popped for it. You know, everybody likes to see Roman go down. And Dean Ambrose was the one that walked out of that segment, leaving the other two guys laying. So all in all, pretty good stuff. Stephanie confronts Ambrose after the fact backstage. I guess she didn't like what he did, and told him that he's going to be facing Chris Jericho in a one-on-one match in the main event of Raw. After that, we get Charlotte versus Paige. I think Paige and Natty are taking on Charlotte and Dana Brooke in a tag match, which I predicted that a few weeks ago, that they might go in the tag team match direction at Money in the Bank. And Charlotte and Paige had a one-on-one match. Dana Brooke fucked up, cost Charlotte the match. Paige gets the pin and the victory. And whatever. This is pretty much a throwaway feud until Sasha Banks comes back. Zack Ryder also gets destroyed by Sheamus. And I think he started maybe attacking Zack Ryder again after the match. Apollo Crews runs out there and runs off Sheamus. And they, of course, have their match at Money in the Bank as well. In a pretty funny backstage segment, Kane is back there talking with Shane McMahon, and they're interrupted by Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens comes in there to basically rat out Alberto Del Rio. He's asking for Stephanie first, but she's not there. So Shane's like, you're going to have to talk to me. And he's like, okay, I don't want to talk behind people's back, but Alberto Del Rio just got here like 20 minutes ago. Don't you think that's unprofessional? I think you should take him out of the Money in the Bank ladder match and all of that, which is kind of funny because Alberto Del Rio was seen on the stage during the moment of silence, and then they tried to claim that he just got there 20 minutes ago. Del Rio then storms in the office all pissed off, saying that Kevin Owens called airport security on him and he got detained at the airport. Fucking hilarious. And then each guy is screaming at each other in their language, Del Rio in Spanish and Owens in French. Until finally Kane interrupts and suggests that the two of them must get along and have a tag team match against the Lucha Dragons. And then Shane agrees and says, good idea, Kane. You boys are forced to get along now, and I'll get your asses out there and have yourself a match. We then had a pretty good match between Sami Zayn and Cesaro. Zayn got the victory there, which was cool to see. And then in probably my favorite segment of the night was the John Cena and AJ Styles contract signing. Now, we've seen a million contract signings. This isn't rare. A lot of people were pissed off that they were doing a contract signing. I'm like, they do this shit all the time. What the fuck are you surprised about? So it was just a vehicle, I think, for these two guys to cut a promo on each other, because the promo work in the feud so far has been fantastic. So Michael Cole is going to moderate this thing, I guess. He calls out John Cena first. John Cena gets in the ring and sends Michael Cole away and says, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Talks for a little bit, calls out AJ Styles. They banter back and forth a little bit, and AJ proves how good of a heel he is. I mean, I thought AJ really held his own against John Cena on the mic. They both had really good things to say, and John Cena says, look, there are two contracts on the table. You can either sign the contract, John Cena versus AJ Styles with the club in his corner, or you can sign the contract, John Cena versus AJ Styles one-on-one, nobody in your corner. You can man up and fight me one-on-one. You've always bragged about how you could wrestle circles around me if you ever got me in the ring, so how about you be a man and not a captain of the bitch club, I think he called it, which was pretty fucking funny. And he goes, sign on the dotted line, and much to AJ's credit, much to AJ's character, he did. And I was hoping he would. It would be pretty shitty if he signed the other contract. Jesus. So AJ was like, fine, fuck it, give me the pen. And he signs it one-on-one, AJ Styles versus John Cena. And I'm liking that because I really didn't want to see too many shenanigans. I didn't want to see the repeat of what we saw with Roman Reigns when Gallows and Anderson are out there every week and every match and every pay-per-view match. So for these two guys to actually have this dream match and allow it to be just that is fantastic. And it's even better if AJ Styles winds up winning. I mean, he could very well beat John Cena clean here. But just because Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are banned from ringside might not necessarily mean somebody else is banned from ringside. So we could see a possible debut of a demon or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something can happen in this match that gives AJ Styles the victory in a sleazy way somehow. There's also the complete possibility that he beats him clean. I'm really hoping this thing stretches to SummerSlam. I'm hoping the blow-off is SummerSlam. I would love to see an AJ victory here, and then a John Cena victory at Battleground, and then maybe AJ gets the win at SummerSlam in the big blow-off, and John Cena loses a blow-off for the first time in his life. And you just have to wonder how far WWE's willing to go with it. You know, I definitely think AJ should beat Cena, but make no mistake about it. It's not like they're going to have 3 pay-per-views and AJ's going to win every time. This is not necessarily a young and up-and-comer. I mean, AJ's the same age as John Cena, so this really isn't a torch-passing moment. These are 2 veterans going up against each other, so you have to wonder how much AJ is really going to be put over John Cena. I'm sure he'll win a match. Hopefully he'll win 2 matches. But that's really, realistically, all I can personally hope for. I don't expect the WWE to do this really any different than they ever have. But I do think there is potential there to make AJ look good and make him look strong and cement him as a major player, especially if he can pick up one of these victories clean. So that's what I'm hoping for at Money in the Bank, and I will give my final prediction on that match in just a bit. Kevin Owens and Del Rio came out next to do that tag match with the Lucha Dragons. Owens got the victory, and then Del Rio ended up super kicking Owens in the face right after the match or whatever. So that pissed Owens off, and he approaches Stephanie backstage complaining about that. And then they decide to incorporate everybody, all the Money in the Bank participants in the main event. Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho. They were going to have Cesaro as the ring announcer. Del Rio was going to be the timekeeper, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were going to be on commentary. Which, if you ask me, Kevin Owens can be on commentary every week. He's pretty damn entertaining on the mic, and I spent most of the main event paying attention to him more than the action in the ring. But Dean Ambrose did win clean, beat Chris Jericho in the main event. Luckily, the brawl did not happen until after the match. I thought the match would just get thrown out because of interference, but they actually waited till the match was over, and Kevin Owens, I think, struck first, got in the ring. Everybody starts brawling. Some fans on Twitter were calling out for Bray Wyatt, because I know Bray Wyatt is due to come back very soon. I would say yes to that if the 7th man was still coming, but we know that it's only 6 guys in the Money in the Bank, so for Bray Wyatt to return on Raw tonight, I thought would have been silly, because it didn't make any sense. He has no place in that. He has no business getting involved with those 6 guys at all. However, next Monday, the night after Money in the Bank, somebody being in the ring or some sort of a situation, I can definitely see the Wyatts returning then, or possibly even at Money in the Bank. Maybe they can make an appearance in the Money in the Bank match. Remember, Bray Wyatt cost Roman Reigns the Money in the Bank last year? So maybe Bray Wyatt has something to do with one of the singles matches, or he has something to do with the Money in the Bank ladder match itself, or he comes back, or the Wyatts all come back the next night on Monday Night Raw. Moving on now to my Money in the Bank predictions. As promised, I'll blow through this relatively quickly. I believe it was the last pay-per-view that I predicted every match correctly, so I'm coming off a really hot predictions video last month. I'm not too confident this month. I have a feeling I could get every match wrong here, so we'll see how well I do. It looks like the card is complete. I don't think there's any time to add any more matches. I have a total of 8 written down, 2 on the pre-show and 6 on the main card. And given the fact that 3 out of those 6 matches are probably going to go pretty long, I don't think there's room for a 7th match, so this should be it. We'll start with the kickoff show, 2 matches. Number 1, Dolph Ziggler taking on Baron Corbin again. So this, finally, should be the end of it. Baron Corbin all the way here. He defeats Dolph Ziggler. Apollo Crews also gets his match with Sheamus on the kickoff show. They've been building this match for the past couple of weeks. Wow. Last year, Sheamus was winning this thing. This time, he's a jobber on a pre-show. But I'm not going to actually pick him to lose. No, I'm not. I'm going to predict Sheamus to win. It looks like he's challenging Apollo Crews, to be more aggressive and kind of picking on him. And Crews is trying to, fight back. I think Sheamus, the veteran that he is, finds a way to cheat and squeak out a victory here somehow against Apollo Crews. And Apollo Crews learns his lesson and comes back to defeat Sheamus at the next kickoff show next month. Main card now, tag team titles on the line. The New Day defending in a fatal 4-way, I guess, with the Vaudevillains, Enzo and Cass, and Gallows and Anderson. New Day is ripe. Unquestionably, they are ripe for the picking, but I'm still going to predict them to retain. I think they survive another pay-per-view, and they're either going to drop the belts at Battleground or they're going to drop the belts at SummerSlam. Whenever they drop the belts, I want them to drop them in a one-on-one match, not a fucking fatal four-way. And I think Gallows and Anderson are primed and ready to win those titles. And especially if AJ comes off hot of his John Cena feud, that could be a good, nice addition to the club, putting some gold on those guys. So I think Gallows and Anderson come up short in this particular contest, but they will get their hands on the belt sooner rather than later. Hell, it could even take place on Raw. Why not? Could make for good TV and probably help the ratings. So I'm hoping that Gallows and Anderson get the belts, down the road, but not at Money in the Bank. Rusev defending the U.S. title against Titus O'Neil. This is a tough one to predict because part of me is wondering if the WWE legit feels guilty about what they did to Titus O'Neil. That suspension that they gave him was fucking bullshit. It still pisses me off when I think about it. So maybe the WWE recognized all that. They got so much backlash from it. I mean, the fans were all up the WWE's ass about it constantly. So maybe this is their half-assed apology to Titus O'Neil, and maybe they actually will give him a run with the belt. Maybe it's a quick one. Maybe he's able to defeat Rusev for the belt at Money in the Bank and then loses it to him at Battleground or maybe SummerSlam or something like that. Or then again, Titus could just be another guy lined up for Rusev to destroy, and they are back to pushing Rusev into a big winning streak so he can eventually go up against some sort of a big opponent, maybe like John Cena when he's done with AJ Styles. So it's tough to predict that. I love Titus. I think he's just a wonderful, extraordinary man, but in my heart, I want Rusev to win. I would love to see them build him the way they did the first time he was United States champion. But with that being said, I feel like we need a title change on this pay-per-view. So this is the one I'm predicting. I'm predicting in an upset, Titus O'Neil defeats Rusev and becomes the new United States champion. That's a bold prediction, but if I'm right, I'm going to feel pretty good about it. The women's tag team match, Charlotte and Dana Brooke taking on Becky and Natalya. I don't know. They were teasing dissension, of course, on Raw between Charlotte and Dana because Dana cost her the match. But I still think Charlotte and Dana wind up winning this match. This could be a good time to bring back Sasha Banks. If she's healthy and ready to go, they could have her interfere in this match maybe and help Natalya and Becky win. I don't know, but I still think Charlotte and Dana will wind up winning this. They're teasing the split between Dana and Charlotte, but they are really hot-shotting. If they do it already, how long did this alliance last? 3 weeks? So I think Dana and Charlotte need a victory here just to keep the alliance together a little bit longer before they do the inevitable split. Money in the Bank ladder match. This is a tough one to predict, sort of. I think it's down to two people, Dean Ambrose or Kevin Owens. I've been predicting Kevin Owens for a long time. I think he is the guy that I would like to see win it the most because I think he could be very entertaining with the briefcase, and I've always felt that heels make a better briefcase holder. Haven't the majority of the Money in the Bank winners been heels? I mean, how many baby faces have we had? John Cena held it at one time. Randy Orton did, but he turned heel with it. Dolph Ziggler, maybe. Shit, who else? CM Punk, one of the first times he won it, but most of the time, it's the heels. It's Seth Rollins, it's Sheamus, it's fucking Edge, it's Alberto Del Rio, Jack Swagger, guys like that. So if Dean Ambrose was to win it and we put it on a babyface again, that would be fun for the sake of the Shield and for the sake of those guys possibly working a big SummerSlam match together. But if not, Kevin Owens to me is the only legit choice. I mean, I love Cesaro. I'd love for him to get his due one day. Sami Zayn, of course, is awesome. And Chris Jericho would be a nice wild card. We actually saw, incidentally, at the end of Monday Night Raw, how he was the one that stood tall. The show went off the air with Jericho's music playing and him holding the briefcase. So that could be a nice swerve. Maybe this is Jericho's retirement run. Maybe he's not telling anybody, because that would be very typical Jericho. If he was having one final run in the WWE and he was going to retire, he probably wouldn't even tell the fans until he was done. So maybe WWE swerves us all and puts the briefcase on him, and he gets one final world title opportunity, before he rides off into the sunset or something like that. So Jericho could be a fun wild card. But realistically, I think it comes down to Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose, and I am going to predict Kevin Owens. John Cena versus AJ Styles. I talked about this match earlier on, and I talked about what I would like to see happen, and I would like to see AJ win this first encounter, and I would love to see him either, number one, do it clean, or number two, do it with the interference of another club member. So if one of those two things happen, I will be perfectly happy with it, and I'm going to predict what I want, and that is that AJ Styles defeats John Cena. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the WWE title. I love Seth. We all want to see him win the belt back. The documentary on the WWE Network definitely did not do the WWE any favors to keep this guy as a heel. But with all that being said, I think he somehow comes up short against Roman Reigns. I definitely don't think Roman Reigns is going to squash him or bury him. Roman Reigns might get lucky. Maybe Seth Rollins, maybe something happens in the match that's just bullshit, and he gets distracted and he gets caught by a spear. And then the next night on Raw, he's like, I had you beat, motherfucker. If it weren't for this, I would be WWE champion right now. I deserve a rematch, whatever. You know that's what's going to happen. Roman Reigns will come out of this match as WWE champion. Maybe he'll lose by disqualification. Maybe Seth Rollins will in fact win. Maybe Seth will get Roman Reigns counted out. Maybe he'll put him through a table and Roman Reigns can't get back in the ring and Seth wins. And that sets up a rematch. Or maybe Roman Reigns catches Seth with a lucky spear after something fucked up happens and Seth gets a rematch right away. Or maybe he has to wrestle on Raw in a number one contenders match and wins that and somehow gets another shot at Battleground. And if that falls through, or if he doesn't get a shot at Battleground, maybe he gets one at SummerSlam, and depending on what happens with Brock Lesnar at UFC, maybe Seth can come out of SummerSlam as a world champion, because remember, by then we will probably have 2 world champions, and it's very possible, since the SmackDown brand does not launch until July 19th, that whatever the new world title is, I'm guessing it's going to be the World Heavyweight title brought back, they could crown that champion at SummerSlam, so that's something to keep an eye out for as well. I think it's going to be an exciting couple of months, and I just hope that if things don't go the fans' way during Money in the Bank, that they don't lose their mind and start freaking out and forget that there are many pay-per-views to come in the future. Wrestling does not end on the same night that your favorite guy loses a match. So hopefully Money in the Bank will set the stage for a very, very fun summer of WWE. Let's hope so. That is it for this week. I am out of here. I will be up here live tweeting during Money in the Bank, so feel free to join me at GoodMicWork on Twitter. I will come up here a couple of hours after the pay-per-view with my results and reaction commentary, and we'll talk about what went down. So I will catch you guys in a few days. Have a great week. Enjoy Money in the Bank, and I'll talk to you on Sunday. Until then, peace.